watching today's interview, note how organic social media can be a law firm's primary and free source of clients. Simple techniques can boost social engagement as well as help generate content topics. And tracking engagement variables will steer you to the best content topics. All right, let's get started. Hi there, welcome back to the Grow with Cara show. Today we continue our interview series with successful attorney marketers. We're taking a close look at what's working, what's not working so well, the specific steps these attorneys took to get to where they are. And remember, these are simple steps that you too can follow to get on a similar path to growth. Okay, let's do it. Today, our special guest is attorney Brittany Alexander. Brittany is the founder and CEO of Florida-based Premier Property Law. She's also the creator of the Build Your $1 Million Law Firm Masterclass. We're super excited to have her here today. Welcome, Brittany. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Cara. I'm excited.
Yeah, so I'm excited to dive in. You have a really interesting story. I love your story. You started your firm at the age of 28 in 2020 in the middle of a pandemic. And in 2021, you made $1.78 million, right?
Correct.
Take us through that a little bit. How did you get to that point, and why did you launch the firm?
I've always wanted to be a business owner, even before I went to law school, like when I was way back when, even in high school. I can even remember in middle school, like making little like business cards and passing them out in the neighborhood and being like, I can babysit for you, for your kids. Like I was always interested in entrepreneurship, but it was kind of like, what can I do? Like, what am I interested in building? And my dad encouraged me to go to law school, did really well in law school, got a job, figured out, working for a big law firm sucks, worked for a boutique law firm, learned insurance law, and was like, wait, I could do this for myself. Like I could potentially open up my own law firm. And so pandemic hits 2020, we're all working from home. I'm absolutely bored as heck, just doing nothing, right? I'm like, you know what? Let me just try this idea that I have to post videos online about insurance law, which like is not sexy. Back when I started doing this, and this was in June-ish, really July of 2020, nobody was posting. Like lawyers were not posting online. It was like really like the criminal defense and like the PI attorneys, like sexy law, where you could like post crazy videos or tell crazy stories. And I'm over here like, if your roof is leaking, do these 3 things. And at first I was like, we're going to see what happens. But the response was really great. And I had people reaching out like, oh, I didn't know this. I had no idea this would happen with an insurance claim. Hey, can you help my uncle with this? And I started bringing in clients through just posting. And this was like my personal page. I hadn't even converted it, quote unquote, to a business page at this point. And I was getting people reaching out saying, hey, can you help me? Or, hey, I have a question about this. And I was getting these leads in. And it got to a point where I was bringing in leads to the firm and I was getting more and more interest. And I said, you know what, I could probably do this myself. And my fiance convinced me, like, launch it, go for it. And so October 1st, 2020, started Premier Property Law.
I love that. I love that. And we're going to get into all the details of how you grew that social presence because it is super interesting. But now, how big is your firm? How many attorneys and support staff?
15 people total. And besides me, 4 attorneys.
Okay. And what type of cases is the firm sort of primarily handling?
We exclusively handle first party property, which is the lawyer way of saying insurance claims.
Okay. Okay. And I noticed that the firm is big on sort of open communication with clients. Tell us a little bit about what you call your litigation success guide.
Right. So I sat down with many people in the industry before even starting the firm. And really, actually, when I started the firm, and I was like, what is your biggest pet peeve with attorneys? And they had a lot to say. But what I really gathered was that people hated that they didn't have open communication with their legal representation. They were just like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's happening. I can't get a hold of anybody. It's impossible to talk to people at the law firms that they're working with. And I said, okay, well, how do I combat this? And I kind of got to the root issue of, people don't really understand truly like the ins and outs of the legal case that they're part of, right? They're hiring you as the attorney to help them with their legal issue. And you're telling them, yeah, we filed this, we're moving this, we're doing this here, X, Y, and Z. And they might kind of get the gist of it, but they don't truly understand it. So we put together a litigation success guide to have that open communication of educating the client on what's actually happening in their case and what that actually means for them at the end of the day.
So is that a series of videos? Is it written communication? Is it automated?
Both.
Okay.
Both, yeah.
Okay. And I mean, it's so true, right? If they don't hear from you on a regular basis, unfortunately, your clients will assume not a lot is happening, despite the fact you might be hard at work on their case, right? If they don't
Right.
understand kind of what to expect and what will be expected of them, I think that's really smart. Is the
Yes.
firm still growing at this point?
Yes, we are.
And it sounds like you're relying, especially in the early days, I think exclusively on organic social media. Is that accurate?
Correct. Yeah, we didn't start doing paid advertising until 2022.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, let's talk about social media. You're very active. You're at lawyer.brit on Instagram, where you have almost 19,000 followers. You're also on TikTok. Tell us about your start on social. Which platform did you use first?
Instagram. I was an Instagram baby from the start. Like Instagram was the cool new thing when I was back in college, just as many years ago. Of course, now it's TikTok, but I didn't really understand TikTok fully. What I understood was Instagram. And so I started on Instagram because that's where I spent my time. That's where I understood the trends. And it was easier for me to keep up with Instagram at the beginning rather than trying to do Facebook ads, which I had no idea about back then, or trying to do TikTok, which I really didn't truly understand. So that's why I started with Instagram.
Smart. And then when did you add TikTok on? Or did you?
That was probably back when it was blowing up at the end of 2020. And I was really just reposting what I'd already posted to Instagram.
Yeah, yeah. What were your early views on Instagram like? Were you getting traction pretty early on?
That's a good question. I can't exactly remember what the views were, but yeah, I was getting pretty decent traction because I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I just started posting on my personal page.
Yeah.
I'd had a personal page for, however many years at that point, right? And there are people from all types of situations in my life that I had added, right? And as people that I knew, friends of friends, family members. And so when I started posting videos about insurance law, I wasn't starting from zero. I didn't like create a whole new page, try to like start it from zero. I already had a couple thousand followers of people that I knew. And I think that's what helped like grow the views, grow like people sharing and getting more followers and just that kind of organic growth.
I think that's actually a really good tip. Starting, your foundation with friends and family. That's okay, right? Who's going to be better sort of advocates for you and for your work? I think that's smart. So on
Exactly.
Instagram, you sort of nicely balance posts about how you successfully launched your firm, using organic social media with posts kind of letting viewers know the type of legal work that you do. How did you find that balance?
It's interesting. I've been asked this question before, and I just really go off of gut feeling. What do my people need to hear today? What am I feeling like talking about today? I don't normally, it's not like I have this like ratio of like, I need to talk more about this or I need to talk less about this. It's just like, hey, I want to talk about this today. This is what I want to put out there in the world today. I kind of just go really off of like gut feeling rather than trying to have the pressures of, well, this person posted about this and this person says I need to do this kind of ratio. That's overwhelming. I try to make it as easy as possible.
Yeah, that's helpful. So take us through your current process then, from topic ideas, shooting, editing, where it sounds like you find inspiration from your clients, from your prospects, what they need to know. Is that kind of where your topic inspiration is coming from?
Right. And I actually teach this in one of my classes is a content menu. This is like where I start. I have a content menu now. I always try to pull from a content menu, kind of like a restaurant menu where like you sit down and you're not trying to like come up with a dish that you want the restaurant to make. They're giving you a list of this is what we have and you have to choose from this list, right? So people that are trying to create content, sometimes they just sit down and they're like trying to pull from the ether of like, what do I create? What am I supposed to make right now? But instead, what you could do is you could sit down and actually create a menu to pull from every time you create content so that you can get ideas kind of flowing and something that you really add to over time as well. Content menu is simply most common questions you get asked by clients and potential clients, misconceptions and myths within your industry, and really any topic you can talk about, no matter how boring or weird you think it is. Stick it into a content menu and pull from that menu every time you create content.
I love that idea. That's brilliant. So the content menu, I assume you're updating it on a regular basis, monthly maybe, or just.
I add to it all the time. It's like a rolling list. So I get an idea, get inspiration. I'm like, oh, I need to add that to the list. Let's make this kind of thing. Let's talk about this kind of topic.
Smart. Are you filming on your phone? Do you have help? Do you use a videographer? Tell us about that.
I have a YouTube videographer now because with YouTube, it's like a lot about the audio quality and the video quality sometimes. Not all the time, because my first videos on YouTube were from my iPhone. I was doing everything on my iPhone because it's easy. Like I know how to work the iPhone. It's simple to use. And it really wasn't that big of a deal to me, especially in the beginning, like how great the quality was. And arguably like those videos were just as good as the ones from the videographer. But everybody who's starting out, they're like, oh, I got to get a camera. I'm like, I got a DSLR camera in 2020 and I never used it. So don't even worry about it being like fancy and like done up. Like amateur is almost always better.
Yeah. Are you shooting videos in batches? How often are you typically shooting?
I always batch content. Yeah. Yeah. Always batch content. And now that I have a ton of content, I usually repurpose as well. I don't have a set schedule necessarily for shooting. Back when I first started in 2020, I was still working at a law firm. So I would plan through the week what I was going to record, and then I would record on Saturday mornings.
Okay. And how many videos typically come out of a typical shoot? Does it just sort of depend?
Depends on how ambitious I'm feeling that day. It could be 4, it could be 15, it really
Yep.
depends.
And who edits and adds captions and all of that to your videos? Are you doing that?
So no, I'm not doing that anymore. Thank goodness. I was doing that in the beginning. In the beginning, I was doing it all myself and it worked and it was fine. And this was before Instagram allowed you to automatically add captions.
Mm.
I was actually going through and adding them, like typing them out myself on a video call on an app called Video Shop.
Mm.
And it took forever. And of course, now you just do it automatically on Instagram, which I wish I had that in the beginning. But I'm not doing it. I do have VAs that help me with editing the podcast and videos and audiograms and things like that. And then, of course, I do have a videographer who's also helping edit YouTube.
And they're posting the videos. Are you posting the videos?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned kind of repurposing content. So are you kind of taking pieces from the podcast or longer videos? Talk to me about the repurposing, because I think that's also a common misconception that every single post has to be this brand new custom piece of content. Talk about the repurposing that you're doing.
Some of the content that I post is literally the same thing. It's the same video, same picture, same caption, same everything, but it's from a year ago, but it's still relevant because a lot of the videos I use are trends, but most of them have like the information that you would need, like the meat and potatoes that I can use time and time again. So some of it's exactly the same, but then for repurposing content like YouTube videos and things like that, what I'll have is my videographer slice those up into, different like 30-second pieces. Mm-hmm. And I'll put those as stories to promote the YouTube video, or I'll put those on Facebook to promote the YouTube channel. So I'm using kind of like content in different places.
Smart. I was going to ask you about the sort of posting to the grid on Instagram versus stories. What are you doing more? How often are you posting to the grid versus kind of posting to stories?
And then when I first started, so people who are like trying to ramp up their social media presence, social media following, I posted every day when I first started for like a year. I was posting all the time. And when I say every day, I mean Monday through Friday. I gave myself weekends off. But the more often you post, the more likely something is going to gain traction and start to go, quote, viral. And I don't mean like hundreds of thousands of views. I mean like getting engagement from your following so that your followers, people that are interested in your content, see more of your content. And I think that's important to get a lot out in the beginning so that you have a greater chance of that happening. Now I think I post to stories, I try to post daily, but for feed posts, maybe 2-3 times a week.
Okay. Yeah, that's manageable. Yeah. I noticed that you frequently use sort of trending audio or trending sounds in your video to gain even more views. Sometimes you're kind of lip syncing the words, other times simply kind of pointing to the text. Tell us about this approach. Why do you do it, and how are you creating those videos?
I'm doing it because Instagram, I obviously use this for TikTok too, but I'm doing it because Instagram's taken kind of like a little bit of a shift, trying to be a pseudo TikTok, in my opinion, because now when you log into Instagram, you can click the bottom middle button and just scroll through reels like you would on TikTok. And those are people that you're not necessarily following. And so a lot of those videos are using trending audios that are fun because Instagram thinks people want to see videos with this audio that people keep watching. And so I use like those trending audios often so that my video is more likely to get caught up in that stream and get more views and more attention and more engagement.
Yeah, that's smart. Seems like the lip syncing ones are a little bit, take some coordination, right? To kind of get it right. Are those harder to shoot or?
Not anymore. I
Okay.
think I've gotten like pretty good. It depends how long it is, of course, but like I think I've gotten pretty good at just like listening a couple times and then doing like one or two shoots, and I'm like, this is good enough. I try not to go for like perfect, or else you're going to drive yourself insane
Just in general, I think that's a
for
good,
anything.
yeah, yeah, social media for sure. Yeah. So tell us about, you mentioned that not until 2022, I believe you started kind of putting some money behind advertising. So are you boosting posts? Are you investing in social ads?
Ads. So I use the ads manager. I haven't used the boost buttons just because I don't like there's not like enough control for me to be able to like dictate where the money's being spent and how it's being spent, who it's being shown to. So I like to use the ads manager. And yeah, I started doing that in 2022 because in the beginning it was all organic and I was really using social media to get a higher reach, get my brand out there, make connections, make relationships. And then in 2022, I was like, hey, people are obviously liking what I'm doing. Let's try advertising as well.
So do you have a weekly or a monthly social spending budget? How much is it typically?
That is a good question that I'm unsure the answer to at this moment. I'd have to take a look because we do a lot based on campaigns.
Mhm.
So, like, who are we trying to target? Who are we going after? Let's test this out. Let's test that out. So, it's not necessarily like a set, like, we can only spend this much. It kind of like flows.
Sure, sure. And what are you promoting through the ads? Tell us about what the ads themselves look like.
Right. Yeah. So, and again, that depends on like kind of who we're targeting, what we're targeting for. So, for example, we just had a huge hurricane that came through Florida. You obviously everybody knows this in the end of September. And so when that was happening, especially we were pumping a lot of ads out about like what to do when, you have hurricane damage and what happens during your hurricane claims process. And hey, if you need help with some damage, give us a call. So that's kind of like we're like pumping ads out for the hurricane because I was like, hey, our people need us right now for this specific purpose. Let's not talk about pipe leaks. That's not relevant right now. Let's talk about, hey, if your roof's leaking, here's what you need to do.
Smart. Yeah, yeah. What about targeting kind of varying demographics? I assume you're targeting geographic areas, but how are you kind of determining your target audience and who to serve that ad up to?
So, I mean, we play with different audiences often, but I'm thinking about, I like to look at like the demographics of who we're actually serving. So like this point, we've had hundreds and hundreds of cases that we've handled. So I try to look at those and say, okay, what's this person like? You know what I mean? Maybe what's their age group? What is, what locations are they in? And I try to like target based on those demographics.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's talk a little bit about kind of your intake from social media. How are clients actually contacting you? Are they sending direct messages? Are they calling the office directly?
It's calling, emailing, sometimes DMing. Sometimes DMing. Most of the time people can find our email and they'll send me a long detailed email about everything that's happened in their life since, birth. And this is what's happened. I need help. And I'm like, great, let's get on the phone first, before we take this a step further. So it's like any other type of advertising, so to speak, or any other type of inquiry. We get some type of contact from them and they go right into our CRM.
Okay, okay. And social media is your sole lead generator, is that correct? Are you marketing?
I would say at this point that it's social media, but not necessarily the one-off social media. So I think when people think like, oh, you're social media, there's people reaching out to you every day saying, hey, I need help with my legal issue, which does happen, but it's a lot also of other lawyers reaching out saying, hey, let's build a referral relationship, or somebody in my industry reaching out, or random people basically saying, hey, I've got people that need help, or my uncle needs assistance with this. So it's also like referrals, so to speak.
Yep, yep, absolutely.
Relationships.
Right. Yeah. A lot of my guests have talked about that, right? It's this nice bonus of being so active on social media. You're really building this network of referral sources. So
Right.
you're obviously receiving referrals, but are you sending referrals out, if either they're out of your geographic location or just a case that you can't or don't want to handle?
Yes, yes. If there's something that we don't do, because I said we exclusively do insurance claims. So if somebody comes at me and they're like, hey, I've got a problem with, I don't know, homestead. I'm like, hey, sounds great. Let's refer you to so and so, or especially other states. We get several inquiries from people who are outside of Florida, and we're currently only inside Florida. So we do refer those out as well.
And are you requesting a referral fee or?
It depends on the relationships I have with that person.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
How much time are you spending actually kind of engaging with commenters and going back and forth, kind of in addition to creating the content? Are you engaging on social as well?
Yeah, I try to. I try to, respond to the comments that are relevant and giving advice where it's, asked for.
How much time would you say, if you had to estimate on, kind of a weekly basis, do you spend on kind of the whole social media umbrella?
That's such a good question because with like planning and creating, at this point, I've got a ton of content that's just like done already, or I can just do it on the fly. So it's a lot less time involved in like creating and posting and whatnot. Plus, I have a social media manager that posts for me, and so that takes out a lot of the time. So that is it. That's a tough question.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah. Well,
unsure.
it sounds like you've really
5 hours. Yeah.
yeah, okay, yeah. Because I asked because a lot of the attorneys I talk to, that's one of their main objections, right? I don't have time. I have pressing client matters. I have, they're being pulled in so many different directions, right? But I think, you've really managed to kind of streamline that, especially, maybe it was taking more time at first, when you had kind of less help, but, I think sometimes attorneys are kind of overthinking it and just thinking that it's going to take, an astronomical amount of time when, maybe, like you said, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just start posting, that kind of thing. Yeah.
I have very good friends who are just like, oh yeah, I've got to get on that social media thing. You do so great on social media. And they've been saying it for years. And I'm just like, I teach people how to just get on social media and make it super simple, hour a week, content menu, create, post it, done, getting the leads in the door. It's like you're saying, people make it into this big thing. Oh, I've got to like have it all figured out. All you need to do is post a piece of content. You already had the law figured out. You're talking about what you already talk about every day. Just put it online.
Right. Absolutely. Britt, tell us a little bit more about your master class and how our audience can kind of learn more about that.
Right. So like I said, I've been doing this since the middle of 2020 before lawyers were really posting on social media, like actively. Now there's all sorts of lawyers posting on social media. But back when I was doing it, it was basically nothing, zero, nada. And so I had to kind of learn this myself and kind of bootstrap my way to building a presence and a brand. And so I get a lot of inquiries from attorneys asking, like, how did you do it? How did you set that up? How did you hit 1.78 million your first, full year in business? And how did you do all this stuff? And so instead of responding singularly to each DM and each person, which I would love to do, but that takes a lot of time, I've created the Build Your $1 Million Law Firm Masterclass, which explains like my framework for creating $1 million law firm. And I'm actually coming out with a program as well, Accelerated CEO, in a few weeks from now, that is going to teach people how to build a law firm, a company, a true company, not just being self-employed or a solo, which is fine. But if you want to actually create a law firm with impact and income, then, I can teach you how to do that. And that starts with the masterclass.
And where should they go to learn more if they're interested in getting the masterclass?
LawyerBritt.co. So Brit with two T's, lawyer, BRITT.co/million masterclass. And it's free to watch. You can watch the whole training. You can DM me if you have questions on it. It's at LawyerBritt.co/million masterclass.
That's great. Yeah, good stuff. I've heard so many good things about it. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Tell us about, you host a podcast too. Why do you do that?
Yes.
Why is it kind of worth your time?
It's the same kind of thing what I was talking about before is I get so many inquiries from other attorneys about like, how do I do this? And I love talking about business. I love talking about marketing. Like, this is fun for me. This is what I do for the law firm. I don't actually handle cases anymore. I exclusively run the business and I do marketing because I love to do it. It's fun for me. And so I created the podcast as yet another free resource to teach other people what I've learned and how they can be successful in building their own companies as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. What kind of ongoing tracking do you have when it either comes to social media or just kind of your growth in general? Do you have kind of key performance indicators that you track? What does growth tracking look like for you?
So with social media, I don't necessarily track like how many followers do I have and I want to reach this number of followers. What I track is like a value engagement on each post. So if I post something and it gets 2 likes, but it gets, 15 saves, I'm like, okay, I need to make more of this kind of thing. Like I want to make content that people are actually enjoying, that is valuable to them. So that's what I track overall as kind of a post by post basis to give me ideas of what to post in the future. From my firm, obviously I'm tracking typical revenue, profit, costs, CPA, all the normal things.
Yep. Can you think of a recent post that was particularly popular that maybe surprised you even?
Let's see. Pull it up and I will look.
Actually, I'll share my screen and we can look at it together. Let me see. You have so much good content on here. Okay, here, let's bring it up here. Can you see my screen, Britt?
I can. There's me. So if you scroll down, there was a post from October 18th, and it's me talking about how we needed to stop making content such a big deal. Keep going a little bit. It's a little bit older. Yeah, it's that one where it's simplify your content.
This one.
Yeah, that reel.
Let's check
So
stop making content such a big deal. When I meet with new aspiring business owners, they always tell me, oh, I need to find some time to sit down and create some content. And I always know that's not the real problem. The time is not the issue. The issue.
See, it's exactly what we were talking about. Yeah, tell us a little bit about that one.
this blew up. I mean, I have so many people who have met. So obviously, when you look at the insights on Instagram or on any platform, they'll tell you not only how many times something was viewed and liked and how many comments you have, but they'll tell you how many times it was saved. Somebody like saved it for later, and also how many times it was messaged to somebody else. And so saves and messages, I had 40 and 72. Wow. Which is pretty outrageous, right? Meaning like people are like, ooh, this is something I'm obviously interested in, which is like figuring out how I can make content in less time. Meaning like I use that in my content creation process of, okay, then I need to make more content about making content and making it less of a burden.
Exactly. I think that's super smart. I have to say, I love this POV Boomer CEO. That was also one of your podcasts. That was really great. I love it. That's awesome. Okay, so Britt, I always like to ask kind of before we wrap up, if a lawyer watching only has time to adopt maybe one or two of the tips that you've shared today, what would you recommend?
Content menu. Content menu, content menu, content menu. Making sure that you that you have a list to pull from, even just sitting down and writing down like the top 10 most common questions that you get from clients. Like as a lawyer, you know what you're going to get asked every time. Like, how long does this take? And what's the typical value? And what am I supposed to do in this situation? Make a video for each of those and just post them to your personal social media. I don't care what platform it is, doesn't matter. Whatever you're comfortable with, and watch people start to contact you about, if you can help them, and, other family member needs this, has this problem, etc. That's what I would say, to make it super, super simple.
Yeah, you're spot on there. I mean, as an attorney, the questions you get over and over and over again, those pain points, those challenges. One video, one question answer, and just start posting that. I love that. That's great advice, to have that menu you can pull from rather than sitting down in front of the camera and just having no idea where to go with it, right?
Right. Yes, exactly.
I love it. Thank you, Brittany. It was a real pleasure. You've been super generous with your time, and we appreciate it all. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Brittany really laid out a roadmap for us today. Here are the primary takeaways I see. Number one, free social media can carry a firm. When it takes off, organic or free social media videos and posts can be all the marketing you need to deliver regular and substantial revenue growth. Her expanding social visibility has generated both clients and referral partners in increasing numbers for Britt. Number two, trending audio is effective. Using trending sounds for your audio can actually deliver a lot more views and grow your follower count, and you don't need to lip sync to do them. Give the technique a try. I think you'll actually be pleasantly surprised at the results. Britt provides many examples for inspiration if you want to take a look. Number three, posting daily will accelerate your progress. If you're going to pursue organic social media as a marketing channel, you really need to be posting every weekday at a minimum. And most of your posts should be videos instead of images. Once you're successful like Britt, you can reduce the frequency, but in those early days, you really should be posting 4 to 5 videos a week. Number four, monitor engagement. Each post, Brittany tracks likes, saves, messaging. She then creates more content on topics for those, high engagement videos. Simple and effective, right? Number five, Britt's final takeaway: draft a content menu. List the questions you're frequently asked by new clients and by prospects. Add the myths, misconceptions about your work along with other relevant topics. Then pull from this list the next time you sit down to outline topics, shoot videos, but do begin. Don't let discomfort in front of the camera or making social media marketing into a big deal keep you from getting started. Okay, I hope you join me next Wednesday for my in-depth interview with attorney Robbie Fakori. He has some real gems to share. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.